Thank you very much for having us. I'm going to share my screen here and hopefully it works. You know, tech issues always happen. Um, oh, I don't need presenter slides. Um, sorry, this is the tech issue. Can you see my slides?
Amy, if you
Yes, we
click
can.
present,
This always seems to happen.
I can talk you through it.
We
Okay,
can see all slides right now.
okay.
Yeah, you probably
For
want
some
to
reason, wait, yeah, here, let me,
go to slideshow.
here, this one. Is that better?
No. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's put it on my other screen, so I'm sorry if I'm not looking at the screen now, but it's on the other window. Um, okay, so I'm going to discuss our scoping study that was done in response to community input from David Johnson, actually, who is one of the fathers and public health nurse on who lives on Six Nations of the Grand River, where Rachel also lives, and many of our partners are also from. Um, he came to Rachel and I initially telling us about, you know, his experiences as a father and that he felt like there weren't a lot of resources for him as he became a father, and his friends and peers also felt similarly, and he really wanted to do something to help his peers. And so we got some funding from Shirk, which was the organization that Stan introduced Rachel's funding is from for her PhD. And we did an extensive literature review to see what has been documented about the role of fathers sort of globally. Um, and what we found was that fathers' early involvement in their infants' lives have really important impacts on children and on, see now it doesn't go to my next slide on the next window. I'm sorry. Oh, where? Sorry, I think I need to do it from the other window. I'm sorry. Um, but fathers have a really important impact on the role of their infants and children as they grow, and in particular on their health, and parents, obviously, in general. But we tend to focus more on mothers. And as such, a lot of the programs that are available for people as they become new parents tend to focus on mothers, tend to be very Eurocentric, are not, you know, culturally safe. And fathers were telling us that they want supports to help them become parents and to support them in that journey to becoming a parent. Um, so we did a literature review and to look at the role of Indigenous fathers meeting the needs of their infants under 5 years of age to sort of do that early childhood critical period of time and to identify gaps in the literature. We did a scoping study, and a scoping study is just an approach that allows us to look at literature that uses qualitative or interview methods, quantitative or survey data, or even experimental designs, as well as gray literature, which included a lot of community reports and things like that. We actually reached out to experts in the field across the globe. There's some work that's been done in Canada as well as Australia and New Zealand, and we reached out to those people to see if they knew of resources that we could include in our search. We used a two-eyed seeing approach, and I won't go too much into what that is. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with two-eyed seeing, and that it originated in Nova Scotia with um, Mi'kmaq elders Albert and Merdina, and we really wanted to make sure, you know, Rachel and I are mothers, we identify as women, and, you know, doing a review on the perspective of fathers or people who identify as men or two-spirit parents, we didn't have that perspective. And so we brought in a number of First Nations fathers from Six Nations who were eager to tell us about their experiences. And they actually looked at the data and they were the ones that identified the themes, and it was amazing. These were individuals that didn't have research experience, and they were really able to pull out really unique findings because they had that lived experience. Um, So that was our approach, which is really unique and I think so important to really integrate community in even a literature review. So the fathers did the analysis, they also were able to recognize gaps in the literature because it was based on their own experience. And they described this journey to becoming a father. So this time period of first identifying as a father, figuring out, what does that new role mean? How do you take over caregiving responsibilities? How do you support an infant's mother or other parent? And meeting the spiritual needs of the child was really important to fathers. And then supporting each other along that journey was also really important for healing, for having continued support networks and parenting programs. Um, but the parenting programs themselves were really lacking in the literature, and that is what the fathers are really feeling in their own lives as well. That the programs that exist generally exclude fathers, they exclude two-spirit parents and what the perspectives or needs might be. Most of them are not Indigenous specific, but these men really wanted to, have this new legacy of positive fathering, and they really have a very thoughtful approach to their fathering and parenting, and so that was really encouraging. And you could see some glimpses of that in the literature, but it's not really well described, and it's so important. Um, and just this need for supports. So it was clear that, we should be supporting men and parents as they transition to becoming parents. That's a really critical time. I've just gone through it over the last 2.5 years. I've had two babies during COVID, and I now recognize like how dramatic a transition that is, right? And you need support during that time, and in particular for those whose services are not geared for. So um, the fathers also talked about a fear of child protection services, which I've heard from mothers in my own research. And fathers share that as well as other caregivers. And then they talked about the gaps in the literature. So it's not discussed, how men might show their love to their children, or how the environments in which those fathers have been raised influence their parenting, and what their goals are. It's always very task oriented in terms of what parents might need as they make that transition. But the fathers that we worked with really have quite a deeper understanding of parenting, and they have goals and for their fathering and parenting, and for their children, as well as a really unique role to addressing the spiritual and cultural needs of their children, and that's not well described or articulated either. Uh, And so, what now? This has actually led to a really exciting study called Fathers of the Next Generation, which IDHC is one of our partners, along with partners from Six Nations and the Hamilton Friendship Center, the Hamilton Regional Indian Center. And so this was sort of came from fathers initially at Six Nations, and then we did a lot of consultation with service providers in Six Nations that provided services for fathers to sort of understand, what are the needs? Is this a research question that might be, addressed through research or not? Sort of put together some ideas on what that might look like. The core project team, this is myself, which Stan did a great job of introducing me, and David Johnson, who is our other co-lead and really the inspiration and brain power behind the project. He's a father and a nurse, and Rachel, who also Stan did a great job of introducing as well. And the three of us sort of did a lot of initial community consultation, and then once people agreed to come on as partners, we were able to further refine the study and what it would look like with their input. And so it's really been from the community, ground up level, and we've got lots of community partners. Some of them are on the meeting here today, and I've got their names up on the screen there for you. We've had some neat little newsletters to keep people interested. So what are we doing? We're initially, it's a 3-phase study, and we're looking at right now phase 1 to understand that journey to becoming a parent. So that Indigenous men and Two-Spirit people take to becoming a parent. So if we can understand what their needs are and how they envision those needs being met, then hopefully in our second phase of the study, we'll be able to create a resource for them to meet those needs. As well, we are also in these interviews looking to understand how to engage men and two-spirit parents in a resource, because we've heard from community that it's a bit tricky to get men to health promotion programs. And so, what does that program need to look like to be really enticing to you, to help you attend, to help you, go through all of the learning objectives of a program. And so we're trying to get that information from the beginning so that what we design can be effective. These are just the 3 phases of the project that are outlined. In our third phase, we plan to run a version of whatever that resource looks like. It might be a bit of a prenatal program aimed at fathers or two-spirit parents. It may be something that needs to be different based on whether they identify as two-spirit parents or as fathers. All of that will be determined in our first phase that we're doing now with our interviews. I want to take the time to put out a bit of a plug for recruitment. We are recruiting fathers as well as two-spirit parents and any service providers that provide programs to fathers, two-spirit parents, and their children, because we really would love to learn from the wisdom and experience of those who are already, engaging with these parents, so that we can create something that, is effective from the beginning rather than learning that it's not effective. We'd love to learn from you first and your wisdom. We are recruiting. We've had issues initially recruiting. I think there's a bit of a brain drain from COVID. People are tired and worn out. We totally get that. So we've adjusted our recruitment strategies, and we have many of them. They're listed at the bottom here. We haven't enacted all of them, but you will see that we're on social media. If you go to, I think I have the tagline on the next slide, our website, fathersofthenextgeneration.com. We're handing out flyers, we're attending family events and programs, and putting out content on our social media regularly. So even if you're not maybe eligible to engage in this phase of the project, take a look at our social media to just get involved and see what's going on. Our second phase will be looking for community input from anyone interested, and so we'd love to have you engaged at that point, and that will be happening next year sometime. So far, we have interviewed 6 people who identify as fathers, 3 people who identify as two-spirit parents, and 2 service providers. We're hoping to interview at least 30 parents and 15 service providers. So we have a little ways to go. We are offering gift cards for your time, and we don't want it to, cost you anything. So if you need help being able to participate, let us know, and we're happy to help you do that and facilitate that. This is our website and our social media handles. And again, if you are interested in participating and you are an Indigenous father or a two-spirit parent, you've got a child under 5 years of age or so, if you're a little bit outside of that window, please still reach out to us. If you're a service provider who provides services for fathers and families, and if you are within the Southern Ontario region. And again, if you're interested in this project, feel free to keep in the loop by joining our social media, because we will likely be looking for perspectives of other family members on this transition as well. We just haven't started recruiting for those interviews yet. We are looking for an elder. We have a knowledge holder included on our advisory board, but we would love to have an elder involved as well. So if you're interested in joining us, that would be great. Or if you're a two-spirit parent and would like to join the advisory group and have input on the study going forward and help us with data analysis, that would be fantastic as well. We are compensating everybody's time for their work on the project. It's not just a volunteer basis. Okay, that's all I had to share. I will maybe pull up the Q&A here to see. Oh, I don't see any questions yet. Thanks so much for having us. This has been fantastic.
Dr. Wright, very thorough. Thank you so much. Is there programs like this all over the country?
No, that's something that we really found, that there really isn't programming for that's aimed at fathers or two-spirit parents as they become parents. So we're hoping to put together a program that can meet needs, and then, it may be made locally, but hopefully it can be adapted across the country and even globally for to meet other people's needs.
Wonderful. In the chat, Curtis is saying that he's interested, so he'll be in touch.
Awesome, that's great. Thanks.
There you go. I know it's interesting. I was out west and I was doing work in a community, and there was some guy there. It's from the Dudes Club, and I'm like, "What's the Dudes Club?" And it's like, "Yeah, the Dudes Club is like it's a men's group. It's like a halftime position in BC, and they go around and they set up like community men's clubs all over the province."
Oh, that's
And I thought, man,
interesting.
that's so cool. And I was actually going up there doing a men's event, and it was so wonderful, but yet so rare to actually have a group of men together, spending time together, and doing some kind of healing work and diabetes prevention or cooking, self-care. It's a concept where like men go off and do stuff all the time, but they actually have a men's club doing programming. It's still very rare. So I want to thank you for that work that you're doing. It's wonderful. Jeff is actually asking a question about unhoused fathers.
Yeah, we're interested in learning about the experiences of any fathers with young children, just about that transition. And if, that is definitely a more prevalent issue these days, unfortunately. And so we would definitely reach out. We'd love to hear from you.